School of Management Studies IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course MMPC-002 Human Resource Management for MBA program. Presenting Block 4 Employer-Employee Relations, Unit-12 Employee Empowerment Part 2. Workers' participation in management in India. In our country, the concept of workers' participation in management is comparatively of recent origin, even though there were a few instances of informal joint consultation as early as in 1920s in the government printing press, Tata Iron and Steel Company Jamshedpur, Indian Aluminium Works Belur, and in the railways. The Delhi Cloth and General Mills Limited also introduced workers' participation in management in 1938 by having an elected representative of workers on the board of directors of the mills. The element of participation was also evident in the Permanent Arbitration Board at Ahmedabad, where representatives of the Mill Owners Association and the Textile Labour Association settled many disputes through voluntary arbitration. The Royal Commission of Labour recommended the formation of works committees, which can play a useful part in the Indian industrial system. It also suggested the establishment of a joint machinery to deal with the more general questions and to act as an advisory appellate body in respect of disputes which are confined to one establishment. The recommendations of the Commission bore fruit with the provision of formal statutory machinery under the Bombay Industrial Relations Act 1946 and the Industrial Disputes Act 1947. The BIR Act, which applies to the textile industry in Maharashtra and Gujarat, provides for the setting up of joint committees only in units which have a representative union. The UP Industrial Disputes Act 1947 provides for the formation of works councils in the state government undertakings employing 100 or more workmen. The government of Gujarat by the BIR Gujarat Amendment Act 1972 have made it compulsory for industrial establishments employing 500 or more workmen to set up joint management councils. Participation or consultation at the company and shop floor levels in India. Since independence, various schemes have been formulated to provide for employee participation or consultation at the company and shop floor levels. Let's discuss some of them here. 1947 Works Committees. The Industrial Disputes Act 1947 provides for limited participation of elected representatives of workers in bipartite works committees with a view to promoting measures for securing and preserving amity and good relations between employers and workers. Some committees, like the Canteen and Safety Committees, are statutory. The functioning of the committees are, however, not satisfactory due to the lack of clarity about their scope and functions and conflict between the elected representatives of the works committees and the trade unions operating in the enterprises. 1958 Joint Management Councils. The Industrial Policy Resolution 1956 reiterated that in a socialist democracy, labor is a partner in the common task of development and should participate in it with enthusiasm. There should be joint consultation and workers and technicians should, wherever possible, be associated progressively in management. Accordingly, in 1958, joint management councils were introduced. They were supposed to be responsible for welfare, safety, vocational training, preparation of holiday schedules, etc. They were also to be consulted on matters relating to changes in work practices, amendment or formulation of standing orders, rationalization, productivity, etc. They did not receive much support from unions or management, and the apparent similarity in the scope and functions of JMCs and works committees resulted in a multiplicity of bipartite consultative bodies. 1970 Employee Director in Nationalized Bank. Following the nationalization of banks in 1969, the government required all nationalized banks to appoint employee directors to their boards, one representing the workmen and the other representing the officers. The scheme entailed the verification of trade union membership and identification of the representative union. The tenure of an employee director was to be 3 years, though union membership verification need not occur even once in a decade. In parallel, the government also began appointing labor representatives to the boards of several public enterprises, but these representatives had no direct link with the enterprise in organizing the union at the local level and were drawn from among the national leadership or on the basis of some elusive criterion. There was no clarity about the role and function of worker directors. 1975 Amendment to the Constitution and the Workers' Participation. In 1975, the Constitution was amended and Section 43A inserted in the Directive Principles of the Constitution. The section provided that the state shall take steps by suitable legislation or in any other way to secure the participation of workers in the management of undertakings, establishments, or other organizations engaged in any industry. Accordingly, the scheme of workers' participation in management at the shop floor and plant levels in manufacturing, mining industries, employing 500 or more workers was notified in 1975. Shop floor and plant level councils were assigned specific functions relating to production and productivity, management of waste, reduction of absenteeism, safety, maximizing machine and manpower utilization, etc. 1977 Scheme of Workers' Participation in Management. Another scheme broadly similar to the 1975 scheme was introduced in 1977 and extended to commercial and service organizations with 100 or more employees. Both schemes evoked some enthusiasm initially during the emergency, but withheld soon after the lifting of the emergency and the change in government in 1977. In 1978, the new government constituted a special tripartite committee on workers' participation in management, which recommended a 3-tier participation at the levels of the board, plant, and shop floor. But the government did not last long enough to implement the recommendations. The 1983 scheme. In 1983, another new scheme was introduced and made applicable to all central public sector enterprises except where specifically exempted, and a standing tripartite committee was set up by the Ministry of Labour to facilitate review and corrective measures. Implementation of the scheme was left to the administrative ministries concerned. Barely half of the central public sector enterprises introduced the scheme over the next decade, and several of these atrophied subsequently. Workers' Share in Equity 1985. The 1985-86 Union Budget made provisions for offering stock options to employees up to a total of at least 5% of the total shares. This was intended to enhance workers' participation in management. The 1990 Bill. The government's discontentment with the implementation of voluntary efforts resulted in the convening of a national seminar and the subsequent introduction of a bill in the Rajya Sabha in 1990 to introduce workers' participation at all 3 levels, that is board, plant and shop floor, through legislation. The bill is still to be taken up for discussion. The Second National Commission on Labour 2002 has recommended that the time has come to legislatively provide for a scheme of workers' participation in management. It may be initially applicable to all establishments employing 300 or more persons. For the similar establishments, a non-statutory scheme may be provided. This was followed by the government intention to pass a law that makes it mandatory for companies to go for workers' participation and reserve some seats for workers' representatives. Forms of workers' participation in management in different countries. Germany. The concept of co-determination in Germany in its formal sense had its origin as early as in 1835 when Professor Van Moll, national economist, advocated for the association of worker representatives in industry as their spokesman. Voluntary works councils were set up in Germany in 4 printing works way back in 1850. In 1933, Hitler banned all trade organizations and replaced them with Workers' Front. The present system of co-determination had its real origin when the trade unions were revived after the Second World War. The trade union demand for parity co-determination led to the passing of Co-Determination Act of 1951. It introduced co-determination on the basis of parity, restricting it to coal and steel industry. Subsequently, in 1952, the Works Constitution Law was passed, making it applicable to all the industries. This law gave certain co-determination rights to the works councils. The Works Constitution Law was modified in 1972, which further extended the co-determination rights of the works councils to various personnel and economic matters. Thus, the parity determination in iron and steel industry was governed by the Co-Determination Law of 1951 and 1956, and in other industries, Works Constitution Laws of 1952 and 1972. It became a matter of debate till 1975 whether co-determination should be extended to all industries and if so, in what form. However, in April 1976, all the parties concerned came to an agreement and a new law was passed extending co-determination to all industries. The law came into force in July 1976. Now, co-determination has taken deep roots in the former Federal Republic of Germany and has become a way of life. Under German law, each company has a 2-tier board system consisting of a supervisory board and a management board. General Meeting. It is an annual meeting of all shareholders where all matters pertaining to capital, stock, liquidation, election to the supervisory board, annual balance sheet, and so on are discussed. Members of the supervisory board are elected by the shareholders' general meeting or appointed by certain shareholders or a class of shareholders. Supervisory Board. It consists of employees and shareholders' representatives. The workers' representatives on the supervisory board are elected by the employees of the company through a system of electoral panels. The number of members may range from a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 20, depending on the size of the enterprise. Supervisory boards with 20 members are prescribed for companies employing more than 20,000 workers. The chairman of the supervisory board is elected by the shareholders' representatives. It is stipulated that at least 2 members representing the workers on the supervisory board should be from the plant itself, representing on each from the blue-collar and white-collar workers. Among the remaining workers, trade union executives from outside may also be elected. The supervisory board appoints and controls management board and approves decisions of major importance as provided by the bylaws of the company concerned. Supervisory board normally meets 4 or 5 times a year. The board gives decisions on important matters such as the closure of plants, the opening of new plants, large investments and major changes of product. Board of Management. It normally comprises 3 directors representing technical, financial and labor. Its members are full-time and are not allowed to sit on the supervisory board. Its main responsibility is the day-to-day operations of the enterprise. One of the directors on the board represents labor. His function usually comprises personal administration and personal planning as well as social matters. His strength in the board of management is derived from the support he has of the Works Council and the workers' representatives on the supervisory board. Though the management board usually makes the major policy decisions on such things as mergers, takeovers, closure of plants, increase of capital and overall manpower planning, the supervisory board has to formally approve such decisions. Works Council. The Works Council is not a management body like the Supervisory Board or the Board of Management. It is not a joint body. Its representatives are elected by secret ballot by the entire workforce, both unionized and non-unionized. The constitution and functions of a Works Council are governed by the Works Constitution Act. Under this act, every plant employing more than 5 employees is required to elect a Works Council through ballot. In firms with several establishments, a central council has to be established. All employees with 1 year of service are eligible to vote. The number of representatives on the council may vary from 1 to 35 depending upon the size of the plant. The workers' representative are elected for a period of 3 years. The members of Work Council need not to be members of a trade union. The council elects a chairman and a deputy chairman from among the members. In most cases, the chairman of the Works Council is also a member of the Supervisory Board. The Works Council represents workers' interest whether they are a member of a trade union or not. The employers and Works Council members work together in trust and mutual understanding within the framework of existing collective agreements. As per law, Works Council members work together in trust and mutual understanding within the framework of existing collective agreements. As per law, Works Councils have to refrain from taking certain militant measures. It has no right to call a strike. The Employer and Works Council meet once in a month to hold discussion and settle disputes. The Works Council plays an important role in workers' participation and in maintaining sound industrial relations. It is the obligation of a company to provide the Works Council with necessary facilities to do its job effectively. The Council has the right to decide with the management certain issues concerning job evaluation, working hours, welfare training, recruitment and dismissal, vacations, transfers, location of new plants, and changes in production methods. It has co-determination rights, cooperation rights, and rights of information. It is much closer to the workers and is the most important body for co-determination of Germany. Besides formal functions spelled out in law, it performs scores of informal tasks, and these are accepted by the management. For example, it can propose any scheme considered to be beneficial to the establishment or the staff. The Works Council is responsible to the Works Assembly, composed of all workers and employees of a firm. It meets once in 3 months, and on that occasion, the Works Council has to present a report on its activities. The Works Constitution Act emphasizes that the Works Council and management shall work together in a spirit of mutual trust and shall discuss matters at issue with an earnest desire to reach agreement and make suggestions for settling their differences. No one is allowed to exercise pressure on the other. Labor management relations in Germany are expressed at 2 different levels simultaneously. One at the industry level between employers' organization and trade unions, and second at the enterprise level between employees and works councils. Employees' organizations insist that these 2 hierarchies be kept separate. The concept of a determination can be fully understood only against the background of the 2 distinct levels of industrial relations setup. At the industry level, the trade unions play a role in collective bargaining functions. At the enterprise level, both employers and the works councils sit together at the co-determination table. Yugoslavia. Worker self-management in Yugoslavia dates back to 1949 when President Marshal Tito dissented from the Russian authority. He emphasized the need for the development of a distinctively Yugoslavian system with a complete departure from that of bureaucratic Russian system of state ownership. In fact, the system of social ownership in Yugoslavia differs from most other socialist societies. In Yugoslavia, enterprises are owned by society as a whole, and the management of an enterprise is delegated by society to the workers' collective, those people who work in it and create social wealth. The basic decisions about a firm, including decisions about the purchase, supplies, and the pricing of products, are made within the firm itself rather than by a centralized federal agency. The trade unions have no direct role in the management of the enterprise, but they have the right to submit list of candidates for election to the Workers' Council. Their approval is necessary for the Council's decisions relating to wages and distribution of the surplus. The trade unions are consulted at a higher level on legislation in the area of labor. The Workers' Council are free to take their own decisions in most of the matters without trade unions or party interference. The main goal of Yugoslavia is self-management, defined in preamble of the constitution as the liberation of work. The major institutions under Yugoslavian model are Workers' Council, Management Board, Director, and local people's committees. Workers' Council. The first law of self-management introduced in 1950 provided for a workers' council in each enterprise consisting of 15 to 120 persons depending on the size of the enterprise. The council includes the director of the firm as an ex officio member. They are elected by the workers and the staff for a term of 3 years. The council is designed to represent all employees in the decision-making process, although initially it was a consultative body with limited jurisdiction. The council is the supreme operative authority in an enterprise and is responsible only to the workers' collective as a whole. The basic objective of the council is to formulate a general policy for the involvement of the general worker within the organization. Its major duties include adoption of statute, development plans and programs, decisions on the basic issues of operational policy, adoption and approval of financial statements of the enterprise, decision concerning merger of the enterprise with other enterprises, supervision of the work of the management board, and so on. The Management Board. The Management Board is the executive organ of the Workers' Council. It comprises a minimum of 5 members elected from among the members of the Workers' Council. The director is an ex officio member of the board. At least 3/4 of its members belong to workers directly engaged in production or the basic activities of the undertaking. They continue their normal jobs during the periods of their tenure as members of the board. Its main function is to manage the enterprise in accordance with the policy laid down by the council. It is responsible for the efficient running of the enterprise. The board generally draws up the production plan, determines the internal organization of the enterprise, and formulates proposals for discussions in the workers' councils. The Director. The role of a director in Yugoslavia system is of crucial importance. The director of an enterprise is at the apex of the organizational structure. He is selected for a tenure of 4 years by the council and the local people committee. He can also be reappointed. He is recruited through open competition on the basis of advertisement in the press and professional publications and other appropriate channels. The Workers' Council may remove a director for inefficiency or incompetence. The director, being the chief executive, is responsible for implementing the decisions of the Workers' Council and the management boards. He has to ensure the profitable management of the enterprise. The People's Committee. This committee of the local people has a say in the appointment of the director as well in the enterprise. They may provide investment funds for the establishment. In case the enterprise is unable to pay the statutory minimum wage to its workers, the People's Committee takes the responsibility to provide for the difference. This committee is powerful enough to intervene in the management and to dissolve the workers' management issues. The greatest achievement of social self-management in Yugoslavia is prevention of workers' exploitation. It has instituted in the minds of workers a sense of belongingness to the enterprise. Industrial conflicts are less as compared to other European countries where there is no self-management. The social and economic content of self-management is the democratization of production and social relations. It is the most comprehensive one operating to date and is a unique example of social engineering which has produced a web of self-management structures and procedures. Evaluation of workers' participation in management. The various schemes of workers' participation in management have failed to live up to the expectations of employers and employees. After reviewing the literature in the field, Zakir has provided the reasons for the failure of the concept in India. Thus, number 1, lack of understanding of the concepts. Number 2, rigid attitude of the employees. Number 3, vagueness of the legal definitions, scope, and functions of these bipartite forums. Number 4, half-hearted implementation of decisions arrived at these forums. And number 5, the suspicion in the minds of trade union leaders that industrial democracy would fragment their authority and weaken their hold over union members. Measures for effective workers' participation in management. In order to make workers' participation in management a success, certain conditions should be satisfied, which we are now going to discuss. Number 1, managerial attitude. There is an urgent need to offer training and education to workers and employees to make the participative culture a success. The employers should be willing to share information and shed a portion of their hard-earned authority in favor of workers. Workers are uninformed and lack experience. The employers therefore must make conscious efforts to bring them up to a certain level before drawing them to the negotiating table. To earn their respect and trust, management must involve workers by number 1, identifying a clear-cut agenda where the roles of participants are clearly defined. Number 2, developing guidelines for decision-making by the joint management councils. Number 3, defining the roles of office bearers as against trade unions. Number 4, keeping employees informed of all decisions arrived at, their implementation and the outcomes. And number 5, evaluating the progress of joint councils from time to time. Next is union cooperation. The workers' participation scheme to be effective must be based on mutual trust and confidence between unions and management. Unions must believe that participative forums are not meant to cut their roots. To this end, management must try to define the boundaries clearly. To be fair, they must give due representation to members from the recognized union without playing favorites. In a multiple union situation, this issue assumes added significance in that the employer can influence the election of representatives to the participative forums by aligning with their own yes men from the ranks and file. Not all unions agree now to the election of representatives through secret ballot. Third point is meaning participation. If participation relates to only tea, towels, and toilets, as the Indian experience clearly shows, it does not serve any purpose. To be useful, participation should cover a wide range of issues where workers can openly represent their cases and seek quick solutions on the spot. Further, the participative forums should not be mere consultative and advisory bodies, routine issues relating to labor welfare. Workers must have a real say in all important work-related matters, including grievance handling, and then only they begin to participate in these participative bodies with zeal and enthusiasm. Workers' attitudes. Workers must have complete faith in the efficiency of the system. To encourage a participative culture among workers, seminars, conferences, workshops must be held highlighting the usefulness of participation. Workers must have a sense of job security and freedom from reprisals resulting from their participation. The overall working environment must be congenial enough to inspire the workers to give their best to the organization. Case study: Workers' participation in management in TISCO. In some of the organizations, the scheme of workers' participation in management has proved to be a hit. Let us briefly examine the experience of TISCO. In 1982, TISCO celebrated the first silver jubilee of workers' participation scheme. Right from inception, TISCO firmly believed in achieving success through employee involvement and participation in organizational work. To regulate employer-employee relations, two forums are consistently put to use. That is, wage-related issues through collective bargaining forum and safety, welfare, working conditions, cost-saving efforts, etc. through participative forum. Since 1957, WPM at TISCO has been functioning at three levels: Joint Departmental Council, that is JDC, Joint Worker Councils, that is JWC, and Joint Consultative Council. There are over 40 joint departmental councils operating at the base level, one to discuss production and productivity related issues and another to discuss safety and welfare matters. The joint worker councils review the working of JDCs and JWCs at periodic intervals. These councils consist of representatives of labor and management in equal number. WPM has succeeded in TISCO because the management stood behind the scheme firmly right from the beginning. The presence of single, strong union has also created a congenial atmosphere for improving relations between labor and management greatly. Management has created special task forces to oversee that the council's functions do not overlap. Special training is being offered to prepare workers for participative give-and-take sessions. Spurred by these encouraging initiatives, workers have also come out with highly useful, cost-saving suggestions arrived at improving overall productivity from time to time. Generally, over 70% of these suggestions are actually implemented with great success. Now let's summarize the unit. In this unit, we have tried to discuss the importance of industrial democracy. It has different forms such as empowerment, quality circle, workers' participation in management, etc. We have touched upon the organization function and benefits of all these schemes of industrial democracy. Also, workers' participation in management in Germany, Yugoslavia, as well as in India have been discussed. You were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies IGNOU for MBA program. Course code MMPC-002 Human Resource Management. Course Coordinator Professor Nayantara Padhi from School of Management Studies IGNOU. Voiceover by Harpreet Kaur. Edited by Tarannum Jahan. Program assisted by Jagbandhu Jana. Program produced by Dr. Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.